You know, I really thought this episode was going to be about a monster. That's why I planned it for this time of year. I've been hearing about the King in Yellow for ages. And despite all the references in games, books, and movies, I never really understood what it actually was. It never quite fit alongside Cthulhu and Lovecraft's other cosmic horrors. But now I know why. I finally read the book. Turns out, the King in Yellow isn't really a monster at all. Not in the way you might expect. In fact, it seems to suggest that with the writers, the storytellers might be the real monsters. Most people think of the King in Yellow as another eldritch being, an ancient god lurking in the shadows of cosmic horror. But the real King in Yellow is something much stranger. It's a book of short stories written by Robert W. Chambers in the late 19th century. And within those stories is something even more insidious, a fictional play called The King in Yellow. And this play is no ordinary piece of writing. The play is whispered about, feared, even banned in the world of the book, not because of anything graphic or violent, but because reading it changes people. The mere act of consuming its words corrodes the mind like an infectious disease. It spreads through the world like an idea too dangerous to exist, something that can't be unthought once it's been encountered. The stories in the book aren't what you'd call traditional horror, not filled with jump scares or creeping dread like Lovecraft's work. They are unsettling in a way that's hard to define, a quiet, creeping unease. The feeling of staring too long at something you don't quite understand and realizing it's staring back at you. And it all starts with a poem, dedication found in the book's opening pages. Along the shore the cloud waves break, twin suns sink behind the lake, the shadows lengthen in Carcosa. Strange is the night where black stars rise, and strange moons circle through the skies. But stranger still is lost Carcosa. The words feel like nonsense, and yet something about them lingers. It's as if they describe a place that exists just beyond the edge of our understanding, a world we're not meant to know. This poem is the first and only glimpse we get of the play itself, before we are plunged into the stories that revolve around its sinister influence. The first story in The King in Yellow is The Repairer of Reputations, and it's the one that shapes most of what we think about the King in Yellow today. It follows a man named Hildred Castini, who, after reading the play, becomes consumed by the idea that he is the heir to a hidden empire, the throne of Carcosa itself. He falls in with a mysterious figure, a blackmailer, who convinces him that the world is ready for a revolution and that he will soon be crowned king. As his delusions deepen, Hildred becomes more violent, more paranoid. He cuts off those who care about him, lashes out at anyone who questions his sanity. He even plans to kill his own cousin, believing him to be an obstacle to his destiny. And then, just as the play has done to so many before him, it breaks him completely. As he is taken away, committed to an asylum, his final words are a desperate cry. "Ah, I see it now. You have seized the throne and the empire. Woe, woe to you who are crowned with the crown of the King in Yellow." This idea of promised paradise turning to ruiners, a theme that plays out again and again in the book. And in the second story, The Mask, we see it unfold in a more personal way. Alec is an artist who cherishes his friends above all else, including Boris, a wealthy man who funds artistic experiments. Boris discovers a strange new element, a liquid that can turn living beings into statues of exquisite rose-colored marble. At the same time, Alec harbors a deep love for Genevieve, who is Boris's lover. Alec hides his pain behind a mask and emotional barrier that allows him to pretend he's content. But just like in the play, the mask is not a disguise. It becomes him. The deeper he buries his feelings, the less he is able to separate himself from the role he plays. And then fate intervenes. Genevieve, overcome by her own torment, throws herself into the petrifying liquid, becoming a lifeless statue. Boris, in his grief, takes his own life, leaving Alec with his entire estate. And when the strange liquid's effects wear off, Genevieve returns to life. Alec, now unburdened, steps into the role the play has set for him. Like the King in Yellow himself, he inherits a world of loss and madness. The third story, The Court of the Dragon, takes us even deeper into the mystery. Here the king is no longer just an idea, becomes something else, a force, a presence, an inevitability. A man, having read the play, seeks solace in a familiar church. But something is wrong. The organ music twists and distorts, filling the air with a sound that feels wrong. The organist turns, locking eyes with him, and he feels the weight of an unspeakable hatred. He flees, but the organist follows. No matter where he runs, the pale figure is there. There is no escape. And then at last he is taken, not killed, but transported, pulled into another world. He finds himself in Carcosa, where lost souls wander beneath black stars, where the king in yellow himself waits to welcome him. The last words he hears: "It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God." And then we come to the yellow sign. A story that bridges the gap between madness and something even worse. Scott, a painter, refuses to read The King in Yellow. He has seen what it did to others, his late friend Hildred among them. But the play is patient. It doesn't need to be sought. It finds those it chooses. A strange, bloated man haunts Scott, disrupting his work, bringing with him an oppressive sense of doom. Then, one night, his lover unknowingly brings him a brooch she found in the street, marked with a strange symbol. It's the yellow sign. And with it, the king arrives. The play is no longer just a text. It is an infection, a force that bends reality around it. It makes itself known, makes itself heard. Scott and his lover cannot resist. As they read, as they succumb, the bloated man returns. He is not just a man, he is something else, something beyond death. And as he takes them, Scott is left with only prayers, prayers that, in the end, are cut short. The King in Yellow is not just a horror story. It is a story about stories, about the power of words to change those who hear them, sometimes against their will. It's a warning, a reminder that ideas once unleashed have a life of their own, and that some doors once opened cannot be closed. Be careful what you read, be careful what you write, because words have power, and some stories are not meant to be told.